Why am I an atheist? Because I love to learn. One of the flaws with religion, and I figured this out really early on, was that it has one source, one belief system based on one source, and that is a set of scriptures. It only took me a year to memorize it, all of it. That's how little there is in religious belief. There's nothing else. If it takes you longer than a year to memorize it, you're doing something wrong. Now, I love science. Not all atheists do, but a vast majority of us do. And there is a very good reason why we like science. Why many of us love science. It's that science is continually growing. It is increasing our knowledge all the time. It never ends. I like to learn all the time. If I'm not learning something new, I'm bored. Bored with everything. One of the reasons why sometimes it takes me a while to get videos is because I get distracted and I'm too busy watching other videos on some scientific research in some way, shape, or form. It doesn't stop. Just when I think I've learned everything about one particular field of science, I find a whole lot more that is new. Because by the time you learn something about something that the scientific minds have discovered, a bunch more scientific minds have discovered a bunch more stuff to learn. Science is also not based on one source, so you have to go through all these different sources. You have to check up on all these different experiments. You have to check up on so much stuff just to learn one little tiny piece of knowledge from science. That's a lot of learning. Religion, you look at one verse and you know that verse. Until I was 15, until I was about mid-teens, I pretended to believe because I feared the backlash of my mother. Pretending to believe in something, i.e. Pascal's wager, is dishonest. It's lying to yourself, and if there is a deity, it'd be lying to that deity as well. I don't think any deity, any god of any sort, would ever be happy with that type of belief. But I did it out of fear of my mother's backlash. So I pretended to believe it even though I never really did. I memorized it, I learned it, I studied it, I even preached it. In the Mormons, they have this type of person they call teachers. Teachers are essentially the Mormon version of preachers. Now, what they do is they find the ones who are charismatic, great public speakers, who are just capable of attracting the attention of the audience and making the audience listen to them. And then they start kind of helping grow this skill set, specifically with the intent that the person will become a teacher. Almost all of them do. Some of us, however, get smart and realize that the whole religion is garbage. Now, one thing I want to address is what Christians consider morals, and how they say atheists can't have morals and atheists have no reason to do what's right. That's totally wrong. It's also very stupid. We do things based on what's better for the species. Now, what's better for the species is not necessarily what's better for the population level. We have 7 billion people. We could lose 90%, 99% of all human life on this planet and still be a strong species. But no. What's right for the species is based on what helps the species progress farther, advance more, and become stronger as a whole, such as medical science. Evolutionary sciences are very important to medical science. Evolutionary sciences also help with artificial intelligence, which is another science that could be very beneficial if we ever manage to get it beyond chatbots and very simplistic concepts. Artificial intelligence just happens to be one of my favorite scientific studies. It's something though that I have managed to keep up to the point where now I'm bored with it, so I've been branching off into others. But we have morals because they're just not what religion considers morals. We have conscience that tells us hurting other people for no reason is wrong. It's wrong not because some deity told us, but because evolution programmed us with that. Evolution programmed a lot of species with that. Every single social species has some form of conscience, and every single social species has a particular conscious trait not to harm another member of its species, with some exceptions. We use religion as the exceptions. Other species use pretty primal and primitive justifications for those exceptions. Ours, we still have a very bad exception for that, and yet it's just more advanced than the other species. We have religion, more advanced but still primal and primitive. The whole concept of religion, it goes nowhere. You often hear atheists use the term circular reasoning, and religious people will constantly say, no, it's not circular logic, it's not circular reasoning, it's not circular anything. Yes, it is. It's circular knowledge. It's circular everything. You cannot grow if you use one single source as not only the evidence, but also the question itself. With science, we come up with more questions. Every time we find an answer, we find more questions. None of these questions have been answered through religious beliefs at all. And before you get into the whole biblical science thing, no, it's not. There have been enough videos debunking all of that. There's no need for me to go into such details. Right now I am just giving my reasons, my personal reasons. And every single atheist will have different reasons for being an atheist, different reasons for justifying their actions. But we justify them based on logical, pretty rational ideals, not based on what some preacher or book told us. Now there's the big crux of religious people. Most religious people are following their preachers. They don't even actually know what's in the book. They take what their preachers say as fact. They never look it up. They don't even know half of what's inside the book. Someone once said 90% of Christians have no idea what's inside the Bible. And I find that to be very true. Most don't even realize that, yes, it does say to stone your children if they misbehave. It's in there. Look it up. I'm not going to give any references because you should know this already. It also says that rapists marry their victims. It is in there. Don't deny it. There are some religious people, usually really good religious people, who say that the entire Bible is just allegory. I have respect for them. So if you're one of those people, don't bother with the hate mail. Take this as my saying, I already know you exist and I do not get mad at you at all. You just have a belief and you wish to keep that belief, but you don't base the belief on something that has already shown to be nothing but allegory, nothing but myths. Myths and legends. Yes, myths and legends can be based on some real places. Even sometimes real people, though very rarely. Take the Imhotep myth and legend. Imhotep was a great healer in ancient Egypt. So great, in fact, that he even managed to figure out how to do some minor forms of brain surgery. Most likely it was just relieving things like blood buildup and stuff like that. But the fact that he was able to know how and what was wrong and fix it, and then the person to heal and lead a healthy life afterwards, that's amazing back then. Very amazing. Nowadays it's every day. Doctors do that all the time. But back then, it's amazing. So of course they elevated him and created a whole legend on him. They said that when he died, he was taken up by Ra and made a god himself for being such a great healer to the people. Sound familiar? Ironically, I found this myth out about 10 years ago. I started studying ancient Egyptian mythology to be specific, some of the social aspects, and quite a bit of the language. Don't ask me to speak it because it has not been spoken for so long. All we do is guess at how it's pronounced, and we usually use Arabic as the basis for it. But anyhow, this legend is older than the Bible, but this legend sounds rather familiar because if you go through the whole legend bit by bit, you realize it fits almost identical to the Christian Jesus, but it's older. It comes before the time that Jesus supposedly have existed. Imhotep was a great healer, and he advanced scientific knowledge and understanding in the ancient Egyptian culture beyond anything we have ever considered possible in the ancient cultures. If it hadn't been for the dark ages of the Middle East, we'd probably be a lot further advanced. But religion has a tendency to create way too many fanatics and thus enact a dark age for whatever area that religion comes from. That's why I say we need to speak out against the religious zealots. So all you religious people who have a belief but don't care to push it onto other people or don't justify it with your scriptures, start voicing yourselves against the loudmouths, the obnoxious ones, the zealots who are screaming and yelling and trying to not only stop science but trying to hurt other people in the name of your religion. They are using your religion to justify heinous acts. We know this has happened in the past. We know it can lead to far worse. So you need to speak up. Anyhow, that's pretty much my rant on religion. It's just we need more people like Mr. Repzion. We need more people like him. Stand forward and say, we can be religious, but we can also be good people. Atheists, we are good people. Though we do have some bad. Pat Condell. Sorry, but I don't like some of his views, and I think some of his views are really twisted. Anyone also who adheres to any conspiracy theory is no different than a religious zealot. I don't care what the conspiracy theory is. Whether they believe that something scientific is a myth, or whether or not if anybody even thinks that creationism has a chance of being science, they are a bad atheist. Because creationism is not based on science, it's based solely on religious doctrine.